What's up, friends? Welcome into Rock Chalk Sports here on Kansas City and ESPN Kansas City and KansasNation.com. My name is Daniel Courtwright. Sean Kellerman is not here. He is somewhere on a lake in Canada fishing with his dad. Happy Father's Day, by the way. Belated Father's Day, or I could be early for next year. So I'll be taking you through the rest of this week. How selfish of Sean Kellerman to leave me for an entire week to do a show by myself. Obviously, I'm kidding because I left him last week or 2 weeks ago for my honeymoon. So I'll be taking you through the rest of this week, but we got a packed show for you today. Wanted to kick this off. Usually we like to start things off with some KU stuff, but this is a massive breaking story, at least today in the world of college athletics. Dusty May is no longer at Michigan as he's going to be taking the Dallas Mavericks head coaching job. So interesting hire there. Obviously, one of the hottest names, around basketball in general, not just college basketball, but now in the NBA. He's going to be able to coach Cooper Flagg. So that'll be pretty fun to watch. Michigan working on hiring an interim right now, but they're going to be on the lookout probably for another head coach of theirs. After that, going to be doing a cup check. World Cup still continuing. U.S., they do it again, 2-0 over Australia. I'll break that down, and everything going on around the world of the World Cup, Copa Mundial, as they like to say down south. So really exciting stuff going on in the World Cup that's going on in the world right now. I'm going to actually be going out to the Algeria-Austria game on Saturday here in Kansas City. So that'll be really exciting. I'll be able to post some things from the Algeria-Austria match, as well as Algeria. They're the home team. They are at least the number 2 team in our hearts here in Lawrence, as the city of Lawrence has kind of ingratiated themselves in the culture and welcomed them with open arms here to the River City. After that, going to be doing our KU football positional group breakdown. Usually on Mondays, we have Nick Springer. He is out of town, so we will be getting him on tomorrow. Also going to help me out with the Top 10 Tuesday tomorrow. But for today, no guest today. Instead, like I said, we're doing our KU football positional group breakdown. Going to be talking about the tight ends, placed near and dear to my heart. Got a lot of good talent there at the tight end room, especially with Andy Kotelnicki coming back. The way that he utilizes his tight end, Matt Lubick, is an excellent tight ends coach as well. So really excited about some of the transfers who come in. Excited about some of the returners who are going to be on this roster. And then we have some spunky freshmen as well who are going to be potentially making an impact in the future, and who knows, maybe even this year in that tight end room. So we're going to be breaking down the tight ends for KU football. After that, it's a case of the Mondays. Going to be talking a lot of different things going on around the world of sports, all sports stuff today, surprisingly. Usually I like to throw in some other different things, but I got a lot of sports things going on here for Case of the Mondays. Talk a little Knicks parade, if you will. They just went on their championship parade. That was a lot of fun. Saw a lot of videos from the Knicks championship parade. Talk a little NFL talk. Talk a little Doug Gottlieb talk. That's right, I'm back, baby. Doug Gottlieb is in the news once again. Hey, we got the NBA draft going on. It starts tomorrow, I believe, and all the way through Wednesday. Going to be talking a little NBA draft. Obviously, Darren Peterson is a hot topic of discussion. Is he going to go first? Is he going to go second? Some people are saying he might go third. I don't know. Didn't meet with the Jazz, only met with the Wizards, who have the number 1 overall pick. So I'll be breaking that down. Jay Billis has an interesting article on that as well, talking a little NBA draft superlatives, talking about the most talented, the most NBA ready. So I'm going to break down those superlatives, and I'm going to look at an NBA mock draft from Jeremy Woo, Bleacher Report. Really interesting mock draft, and just kind of break it down because a lot of these guys, we know them. We've seen them this past year in college basketball. So I'll break down kind of a mock draft and what I think, kind of where I think it's going to go. You know what? I'm going to do my own mock draft. Why not? I'll throw my hat into the ring of NBA mock draft analysis. I'll throw my Jeremy Woo hat on. That'll be a lot of fun. And then after that, to close out the show, going to be talking a little College World Series. Winner take all tonight. North Carolina, OU. OU took the first one big, and then North Carolina came back yesterday and beat OU. OU's on a... they're a wagon right now, but North Carolina's a very, very good baseball team, so that'll be a lot of fun. So be sure to be watching that tonight. I think it'll make me feel, I don't know. Sean disagrees with me because I like transitive properties. So I want OU to win because it makes me feel better because, oh, well, KU lost to the national champion, right? But Sean disagrees with me in that aspect of Sean wants nothing but pain and suffering for people who brought us pain and suffering, which I do understand that as well. But in order to, I guess, push my own agenda, it's more important for OU to win. So anyway, wanted to start off with this. Talk a little Dusty May. Before that, I want to tell you about KansasNation.com. Be sure to check out KansasNation.com for all things Kansas related. Stay up to date on KansasNation.com. We have daily articles. All of our shows are on there. We have a number of different shows. Our show, Rock Chalk Sports, airs every day from 4 to 6 on KansasNation.com, as well as YouTube Live and Facebook Live, and on ESPN Kansas City, 1510 AM and 94.5 FM up there in the city of Fountains. Be sure to check it out. We have a lot of great shows as well. The Timeout with Tyshawn Taylor podcast is up there. Legends of Kansas with B-Mac and Chris Harris. We have Between Two Fountains with Mick Schaefer and Greg Gurley. And, of course, Haney and the Hawks, where Brian Haney, the voice of the Jayhawks, brings on Jayhawks of old. That's always a lot of fun to watch those guys come back and kind of reminisce on the days of old. So be sure to check out KansasNation.com and check us out on all of our social media platforms as well. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at The Kansas Nation, at The Kansas Nation on YouTube as well. Kansas Nation on Facebook. Check that out because daily we're posting all things KU related. Anything you need to stay up to date, check it out. Kansas Nation on socials and KansasNation.com. All right, I'm going to go ahead and open up with, like I said, the Dusty May news. Dusty May is going to be leaving the University of Michigan after winning a national title to go and coach the Dallas Mavericks. This is an interesting move. This is actually the first time that a coach has left after winning a national championship since, guess what? A little KU flavor in here. 1988 when Larry Brown went to go coach in the NBA. So interesting there. Obviously, Michigan has dealt with this before. Coach John Beilein went to and left Michigan to take the Cavs job back in 2019. That's when the Juwan Howard era started, and that was a dumpster fire. Then, obviously, they brought in Dusty May over from FAU, and he has continued to build Michigan into an absolute powerhouse. And they have a ton of money, and, you know, in the world of NIL and the transfer portal, that's what you need. So it's certainly helpful. But Dusty May is a very, very good head coach, and I think he's kind of, settled in to the world, but also the NBA. I think he's ready for it. I mean, if you look at it, I believe he's 49 years old. He's 49 years old. So still a lot of life left in him. And it's going to be a lot of fun. Obviously you have Cooper Flagg down there. I mean, the Mavericks, they haven't made the playoffs in the last 2 years. They made the NBA Finals back in 2024 with Luka Doncic, and all of a sudden, hey, February 2025 rolls around. He makes a incredible trade, I would say, with Luka Doncic. Nico Harrison trades him away to the Lakers. They bring in Anthony Davis, plays like 12 games for him before he gets injured, and then Anthony Davis now is with the Washington Wizards. So Nico Harrison, by the way, is no longer there. So I like this pickup. I think that obviously Dusty May is probably the right move to do it. If you're an NBA general manager and you're looking for a new coach to come in and kind of bring life back to you, especially after something like that happened where you trade away, some could argue, the number one player in the entire world in Luka Doncic, at least top 5, right? Where all of a sudden they win the NBA draft lottery, they bring in Cooper Flagg, and, you know, they have your marquee player at a discount, at least discounted price from what, you know, Luka Doncic was. I think the bones are there for the Dallas Mavericks, and bringing in Dusty May, again, a very, very good head coach, is only going to make that better. So I do like this for the Mavs, and again, if you're looking at somebody, right, like Bill Self for many years when he was Dusty May's age, around there, 49 years old, right? He was linked to a lot of jobs. He was linked to the, you know, San Antonio Spurs job, and, you know, Scott Drew, he's getting up there in age as well. And you're looking at, you know, guys like maybe John Shire, you know, some other younger guys like that. But Dusty May essentially was the one that kind of made sense. If you're in the NBA ranks, looking at the college level, Dusty May just makes sense. I mean, he just won a national championship, right? So obviously that certainly makes sense, and now he's going to be coaching Cooper Flagg. The Mavericks, they did fire Jason Kidd after last year. He went 26-56 and just a, you know, dreadful year all around. But again, there were some bright spots there just because you had Cooper Flagg for the Mavericks. And I think he's going to be one of those marquee guys, one of those guys you can kind of build a team around. And Dusty May is going to certainly do that, right? He took over for Juwan Howard, and he kind of worked his way up too. Obviously, when you look at what he did with Florida Atlantic, he took them to a Final Four. I mean, that's unheard of, right? Goes to Michigan after Juwan Howard gets fired. Like I said, it was kind of a dumpster fire there, and brought Michigan to national prominence, brought in a ton of really highly touted transfers. You got the Yaxel Lindebergs of the world, you got Elliot Cadeau's of the world, right? I mean, just a number of different guys who come to Michigan and eventually win you a national championship. They went 64 and he had 64-13 record over the last 2 seasons up in Ann Arbor. Like I said, with Florida Atlantic, he did a tremendous job over there. Now, here's the interesting part. So this is what I wanted to talk about. Per the NCAA transfer portal policy, this is from Jeff Goodman. They changed it in January. When a head coaching change occurs, players have a 15-day period in which they can enter the transfer portal, a period that begins 5 days after the new head coach is hired or publicly announced. Now, Michigan did come out and they said that they hired an interim. They hired Mike Boynton, which any of the Big 12 heads, you guys know him as Oklahoma State's former head coach, right? He was there from 2017 to 2023, 2024, around there. I think it was 2023 was when he eventually got fired, and then eventually landed on his feet as an assistant coach at Michigan. Now they are going to be essentially bumping him up. But I don't think Mike Boynton is the answer for Michigan right now. I would imagine they're hiring him as an interim just to kind of keep the peace and have a guy there who is the leader as of right now, because all of these guys, hey, all of a sudden their head coach is gone and they don't know what to do. So naturally, the next thing you do is, all right, well, let's take the number 2. Let's bump him up to the interim right now while we go on a national coaching search. I would imagine that's what's going to happen as of right now. But you look at the names that are still on this Michigan roster, it's still a really solid roster. They still have Elliot Cadeau, which, as we know, is a very, very good, spunky guard. They still have Trey McKinney, who is a very talented player in and of itself. And they have a couple of massive transfer portal gets as well. Mustafa Sham, part of the law firm. Mustafa Sham transfers over to Michigan. They also have J.P. Estrella, who transfers over from Tennessee. So when you look at these guys, you look, okay, maybe some of them could potentially enter into the transfer portal. Now, I understand that they are under contracts, and from what I've heard, there are some buyout options there. But as of right now, like, if you maybe aren't super comfortable with your roster, maybe you put out some feelers. Again, you can't tamper, right? You can't reach out to these guys until they enter the transfer portal. I don't know if any of them are going to enter the transfer portal. Maybe they're going to buy into Mike Boynton and then whoever it's going to be. I don't know who the coaching candidates are going to be, right? Billy Donovan's out there, right? You have some guys who could potentially, maybe come out of retirement. Like, I know Jay Wright's name is always thrown around. I don't know if he wants to come out of retirement yet, but I mean, certainly that's a phone call that you're going to have to make if you're Michigan, right? Because you have to be looking for somebody. You just won a national championship. You want to maintain that caliber of basketball playing. I mean, that's going to be somebody that you want to look at, right? There's not a single name out there in the college world that you're not going to make a phone call to if you're Michigan, right? If you want to maintain these players, you have to let these players know initially, too, that, hey, we are going to try to get the number 1 guy, the best guy available. Michigan is in a weird spot because Michigan isn't necessarily a blue blood. I've talked about this before, about how when Kentucky fired John Calipari, they looked at everybody, right? They tried to get Scott Drew. They tried to, make a run at Danny Hurley, right? I mean, Kentucky tried everything to get everybody, and everybody said no, right? Until they were like, well, hell, I guess Mark Pope played here back in the 90s. I guess we'll shoot him a phone call, and then they wind up getting Mark Pope, and then look at what's happened, right? Same with North Carolina. North Carolina, they fired Hubert Davis, and they looked everywhere, and they kind of had to settle for Mike Malone, right? And I'm not saying that he's obviously he won an NBA Finals. I get that, right? But it just kind of came out of nowhere, right? So when you're a blue blood program like North Carolina and Kentucky, it's almost kind of a nightmare job because of the fact that the bar is set so high to where if you're comfortable where you're at? And I'm going to go ahead and say like a Michigan, because I know Dusty May was in those conversations for both of those schools, for Kentucky and for North Carolina. He was comfortable where he was at, right? At Michigan, where, yeah, he won a national championship, but they don't have the entire history backing it up to where you're never going to be good enough, right? Because we saw that with Hubert Davis. We saw that, we're seeing it now with Mark Pope, right? John Shire's done a really good job, and I think John Shire is kind of the outlier of it. But when you're talking about blue bloods, UCLA is a great example. UCLA just kind of has a revolving door of different guys, at least through, the early part of the 2000s, and then they won the national championship back in they won it back in 2022, I believe. Did they go to it? I think they went to it. I don't think they won. Doesn't matter. Anyway, these blue bloods, they're a very hard job to get into, whereas Michigan, they're not necessarily a blue blood quite yet, right? They haven't won a national championship. That's from last year compared to 1989, right? They don't have the same caliber of basketball, right? So I think it's going to be an easier pitch for Michigan. Yeah, they're coming off of a national championship run. I get that, right? But you're not going to have the pressure of being a blue blood coach right away. That's why I think the Kansas job is going to be a nightmare job for anybody who takes it, right? That's why I think, if you want to do it, you should go with somebody like Jacques Vaughn or anybody, right? So anybody along that line or kind of hire from within. I think that's probably the way to do it. That's what John Shire did over at Duke, and it certainly worked out for him because he knew the pressure. He had been in the program. He had not only played there but also coached there as well. So he understands the pressure that came along with it as opposed to starting from scratch, right? So with Michigan, it's going to be interesting. I know Josh Schertz over at St. Louis, that's an interesting name that could be tossed around. I mean, I know that he did just sign an extension there, but again, there could be buyouts. I mean, you look at what Ben McCollum has done. Now, granted, I understand Ben McCollum is a hot name right now, but he's bounced around quite a bit over the last 3 or 4 years, right? He went from Northwest Missouri to Drake and then to Iowa, all within the span of 3 years, right? He had essentially 3 jobs in 4 years. So does he want to uproot his life and move again for 4 jobs in 5 years? I doubt it, right? So Ben McCollum could potentially be out of the question, even though he has a record of leaving. But I think he's gotten to a point where he's pretty comfortable over there in Iowa City. Billy Donovan again is one of those guys. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Michigan again, with the players having all of this money but also losing their head coach. Are they going to enter the transfer portal? Would Kansas be interested in any of these guys in the transfer portal? I would certainly think they'd be interested in like a Mustafa Sham, just because of the fact that right now, in terms of Kansas, where you're the most thin is your front court, right? You have the guard play to back up really solid basketball for this year, right? You have Tate Kenny as the point guard. You have Tyron Stokes as your wing. You have Cole Rosario, Leroy Blyden, Dennis Parker Jr., all that kind of revolving guys who could be, these impact players who I think are going to be nice rotational pieces. And then you look at the front court, you have Keanu Dawes, who presumably is going to be your 4 spot. I know he can play the 5 at times. He had to when he was at Utah, but again, he was their best player, and they just had to put him at the 5. I think he's more of a natural 4, kind of a stretch 4 guy, if you will, in Keanu Dawes. And then you have Paul Mbia, you have Christian Reeves. Christian Reeves has a massive question mark over his head just because of the fact that he's dealing with the labrum injury, and he's not going to be back until, like October, right? So he's going to be going through the entirety of boot camp, not working out. He's going to be going through the entirety of the offseason, not working out, continuing to rehab his shoulder. He's dealt with injuries in the past, and you have to think this is something that the coaches knew before they brought him in. And with Paul Mbia, again, that's my guy, but he's raw right now, and the fundamentals aren't quite there yet. Has all the raw ability imaginable with the shot blocking, with the, shot making, with the, aggressiveness down low. Yeah, I get that. If he continues to get better on the defensive end of the ball in terms of not getting into foul trouble, if he gets better in terms of getting more post moves down and that he's comfortable with, then I think he'll be okay. But again, those are your 2 guys at the 5 spot. Keanu Dawes could, in theory, slide over to the 5 spot. I'm not comfortable with that. Again, I think he's more of a natural 4 stretch four, if you will, and he can go out, hit some three-pointers if you want, but I'm looking at him more of like a KJ Adams. And again, KJ Adams, there was a year where he played primarily the 5 as well. So it's not out of the realm of possibility. But again, you don't want to rely on Keanu Dawes for that. So if you're going to look for somebody, you're going to want to probably look for somebody who's a bigger guy in the front court. I don't think Kansas is going to make a push. Like if Elliot Cadeau were to go into the transfer portal, I don't think they need him. I really don't, right? You have Tate Kenny. You have Tyron Stokes. You have Leroy Blyden and Dennis Parker and Cole Rosario and all these guys playing at your guard spots. I think you're comfortable with the guard spots right now. Right now, Kansas has 2 spots left, and Kansas is utilizing their resources trying to get Malik Ewan eligible, right? So if there was no money, they wouldn't be trying to get Malik Ewan eligible because Malik Ewan, again, would be an absolute and steal might not be the right word just because people know what Malik Ewan is. But Kansas has the money to be able to do it. So if Kansas could potentially make a run at Mustafa Sham, because Mustafa Sham transfers into Michigan to go play for Dusty May, and then Dusty May leaves a month, 2 months after he, agrees to transfer there. That, to me, I think you're more so looking at the transfers who transferred into Michigan as opposed to maybe some of the guys who were there from last year, like Trey McKinney and Elliot Cadeau. So there is some potential, and I think Kansas could potentially put out some feelers, make some phone calls, that kind of thing. But if you're Michigan, you're coming off a national championship, and if you make the right hire, and I would imagine they have to make the right hire relatively soon in order to keep these guys, right? Because like you said, it's 5 days after the new head coach is named. They hired an interim, so the clock starts now. The clock starts 5 days from now. So that's going to be what, Saturday? Yeah. That's when these guys can enter the transfer portal. So I'll keep an eye on this. Then they have 15 days after that to enter the transfer portal as well. So there's going to be their separate transfer portal. So I expect some movement, maybe not a lot. Again, I don't imagine Elliot Cadeau is going to transfer. I don't imagine Trey McKinney is going to transfer. JP Estrella, I think he'll probably stay around. Mustafa Sham is the one that I'm kind of looking at. But that's the big news coming out of today. Dusty May, he is going to be the new head coach for the Dallas Mavericks. I mean, we'll see what he can do with Cooper Flagg. I know that he's been able to squeeze as much talent out of a little that he possibly can, and now it's going to be a new venture for him, right? No more recruiting. It's all about just the raw players and your raw coaching ability. I think Dusty May is one of the best coaches out there. So congratulations to him, man. But yeah, it's kind of crazy. Like I said, for the first time since 1988, when Larry Brown left Kansas. This is the first time that's happened where a coach wins a national championship and then goes to the NBA. So interesting stuff there. Hey, after this, going to be doing a cup check. Cup check. World Cup happened all throughout this weekend, still continuing to happen. We're still in pool play, but the U.S. are making it to the knockout rounds. Let me talk about that after this on ESPN Kansas City and KansasNation.com. Welcome back into Rock Chalk Sports here on KansasNation.com and ESPN Kansas City. It's time for a cup check. We're checking in on the Cup, Copa Mundial. But first, got to tell you about Crown Automotive over in my neck of the woods, as Sean likes to say. Crown Automotive, be sure to check them out if you're in the market for a new or used car. They have a whole line of new Toyotas and Volkswagens, Tiguans, Tauses, Jettas, Corollas, Camrys, RAV4s, Tacomas, Tundras, you name it. They've got it. If you like Toyotas and Volkswagens, 2 of the best cars, by the way, you can buy, bang for your buck. I mean, just incredible cars. But those aren't your jam. They have a whole line of used cars as well from a number of different brands. So be sure to check them out. They're not going to try to put you in some sporty little thing. You got 4 or 5 little Rugrats running around, going to soccer practice or anything like that. They're going to get you in a car that fits your lifestyle at an affordable cost as well. Friendliest sales staff in town, and it's all run by the Lawrence Citizen of the Year, Miles Schneer. Great guy, great wine. Check out his winery, but most importantly, check out crownautomotive.com or crownmotorsvw.com, our founding partner here at Kansas Nation. Time for a cup check. The U.S., they win against Australia. Oh, my gosh, that was so much fun. So U.S., they go ahead and they beat Australia on an own goal by Burgess. That was the first one that happened early in that game. And this game scared me kind of from the jump because of the fact that we didn't know until relatively soon before the game that Christian Pulisic was not going to be playing in this game. But the U.S. was able to get it done. They beat Australia 2-0. Florian Balogun, he had 2 goals against Paraguay. He was, a really solid player in this one as well. But again, you didn't have Pulisic, who's your best player. So that's not necessarily the most fun in the world. But the U.S. kind of dominated this game from the jump. They doubled the shots taken by Australia. They had 10 shots. Australia only had 5 shots. The U.S., by the way, they had 6 blocked shots, which is just insane. They had 8 attempts inside the box. They had 2 shots on goal. The U.S. scored on 1 of them. Alex Freeman scored the second goal in the 43rd minute. After that, the whole second half, you didn't see a whole lot. But the U.S. was really, really solid on this one because you knew Australia coming in was a lot faster of a team than Paraguay. That's the thing, is like, I was looking at the Paraguay game kind of as like a bye game for Kansas early on, right? That was like Texas A&M Corpus Christi, where, Corpus Christi comes into town, and you're Kansas, and you go, oh, man, Florida be doing good ahead, 20-some-odd points and 15 rebounds. Man, Florida's been doing this the whole time. Well, it's Corpus Christi. Let's pump the brakes a little bit. You know what I mean? And there's other guys who tend to get in, and we saw this, it was like Haskell took on Kansas women's basketball, and Brittany Harshaw had 25 points in that game. You're like, man, Brittany Harshaw, but it's like, well, it's Haskell. So you have to take it with a grain of salt, right? That's why I thought kind of with Paraguay when the United States beat them 4-1. But this is a legit team. Australia is a very solid team in this World Cup, and the U.S. goes and beats them 2-0. The U.S. had 7 corners in this game, where Australia only had 4. So it was a lot of fun to watch. And again, when you kind of look at it, the U.S. has not been good at soccer for a long time on the men's side of things. The women's soccer team is always fantastic, right? But, do they have what it takes to go all the way? I don't necessarily know, right? Alex Freeman, whose father, I believe, played in the NFL, is a really solid player. You have Flo Balogun. You have Christian Pulisic. If he's healthy, is going to be, a really massive piece of this, and you would imagine he's going to be healthy for the upcoming games. But at the same time, you have Tyler Adams, right? You have a number of players who I think this is probably the best U.S. men's team that we've seen in a long time, at least since 2014, when that's the last time they made it to the knockout rounds. But here's the thing. The U.S., they're in the knockout rounds again. They have 6 points. They are firmly in, so you feel very, very comfortable about that. The U.S., by the way, their next game is going to be against Turkey. That's going to be on the 25th. So that's going to be Wednesday. Turkey, they've already been eliminated, right? Turkey, if you look at what happened to them, they kind of lost a shocker to Paraguay. Paraguay beat them 1-0. Paraguay was down to 10 players, and they still wind up pulling a win out. So Turkey, they're eliminated. They're out of it. Turkey is a really solid team. If you remember, I talked about this. Turkey outshot Australia by a ton, but they just weren't able to get it done against Australia. Australia had way less shots on goal, but they were able to find the back of the net more than Turkey did. But Turkey, again, is a really solid team. So the U.S. is going to be taking on Turkey. Turkey has nothing to play for right now. So I think that's important to note. And I think if the U.S. is able to jump out early against Turkey in this game coming up on Wednesday, then I think you can look at that and think, okay, well, I guess it's going to be Thursday. It'll be Thursday the 25th. Then that'll give the U.S. some momentum heading into the knockout rounds, right? The U.S. is already firmly in. Now, how does the U.S. play this? Do they play it a little bit, closer to the chest? Do they play a little bit more conservatively, try to save their guys? Or do they try to run up the score against Turkey and again, build some of that momentum? Could be interesting to see. Just in some other stuff, just kind of recapping this past weekend, Morocco beat Scotland 1-0. That was really exciting to see. Scotland, again, is pretty good, but Morocco, they're rock solid. Brazil, they beat Haiti 3-1. Like I said, Paraguay beat Turkey. That was the games that were on Friday. Saturday was interesting. Netherlands, they were kind of had their backs up against the ropes after losing early. They take on Sweden. They beat them 5-1. Just an absolute drubbing of Sweden by the Netherlands. Netherlands are looking really good right now. Germany, they beat Ivory Coast 2-1. Ecuador, Curacao, that ended in a 0-0 tie. And then Sunday was the interesting one. So Japan beat Tunisia late Saturday night, bled into Sunday. Spain, they beat Saudi Arabia 4-0. Belgium actually tied with Iran, which that was a surprising one to me. I actually lost $2 on that game because I thought Belgium was going to run away with it. But Belgium, they're 0-2 right now. Tied up 0-0. There's a 0-0 game between Belgium and Iran. Uruguay and Cape Verde. Cape Verde just continues to impress. I mean, who would have ever thought that Cape Verde would be in the situation they're in right now? But they wind up taking a draw with Uruguay, who, has a couple of World Cup victories under their belt. So that was really fun to see. Egypt also got their first ever World Cup victory over New Zealand. Mo Salah, he scores the go-ahead goal, and Egypt beats New Zealand 3-1. Mo Salah has been a lot of fun to watch. Coming up tonight, you have Argentina playing against Austria. That's at AT&T Stadium down in Texas. You have France versus Iraq. Iraq is not a great team. France, obviously, they're France. They're always going to be France. Kylian Mbappe has been so incredible throughout his World Cup tenure. Every single World Cup game that he has played, and he's continued that to be, just one of the top players. And actually, our intern Trey Myers said that he's going to be the best player in World Cup history. I don't know about that, but we'll certainly see. Norway takes on Senegal today as well. That's going to be at 7 p.m. And then the late one out in Levi Stadium, the home team, Algeria, takes on Jordan. It's going to be a lot of fun. I like Algeria, man. I hope they can squeeze out a win against Jordan, hopefully get up into that final 8 teams. I don't think they're going to win, obviously, their group, but if they're able to pull it off and beat Jordan in kind of relatively handily, and if they're also able to beat Austria on Saturday, which is a game that I'm going to, then maybe potentially they'll be able to get. They're not eliminated yet, I don't believe. So it'll be a lot of fun to watch. Obviously, Riyad Mahrez is one of the best players in the world right now. So be sure to tune into that one. That one's going to be going on tonight at 10 o'clock. So be sure to watch the home team as Algeria takes on Jordan tonight. Hey, after this, I'm going to be doing a little bit of KU football talk. We're doing our positional group breakdown that continues throughout these summer months. Got to do tight ends today, man. Got to talk about my near and dear to my heart tight ends in our positional group breakdown. It's coming up after this on Rock Chalk Sports, KansasNation.com, and ESPN Kansas City. Welcome back into Rock Chalk Sports here on KansasNation.com and ESPN Kansas City. Just wanted to follow up on the Dusty May thing. Apparently, per Matt Norlander, he says sources say that there is a possibility that Boynton will just be promoted from interim head coach to full-time head coach at Michigan in the days/weeks ahead. So if they hire Mike Boynton, good for him, I guess. He didn't do a damn thing when he was at Oklahoma State. He was a head coach at Wofford for a while. I think he played at South Carolina back in the day. So I don't know. We'll certainly see. I mean, if anything, history tells us that hiring, bumping up interim head coaches to full-time head coaches at Michigan did not prove to be great, i.e. Sharon Moore. But, we'll certainly see how that kind of plays out. Hey, Central Bank, proud sponsor here at Kansas Nation. Wanted to tell you about them. With Jayhawk checking from Central Bank, Jayhawk fans can carry their pride wherever they go with the official Jayhawk debit card, a simple way to show school spirit every day. Central Bank, they are proud to support the traditions and communities that bring people together. As a proud community banking partner of the University of Kansas, Central Bank is committed to serving Jayhawk fans with banking options designed for real life, on campus, at work, and everywhere in between. You can learn more about Jayhawk checking and the exclusive Jayhawk debit card at jayhawkchecking.com. That's jayhawkchecking.com. Central Bank, the proud community banking partner of the University of Kansas, member FDIC. I miss when I got to wave the wheat during that live read, and Sean just decided to take it out. It was always fun, and he always hated it, and that's what made it more fun for me. So I don't know. Maybe I'll pull that back out this week while he's gone, just to stake, just for old time's sake, to stake my flag here, whatever. But yeah, be sure to check out Central Bank with the exclusive Jayhawk debit card, jayhawkchecking.com. Hey, it's time for our KU football positional group breakdown. Going to be talking about the tight ends, and this tight end room is interesting because you have some returners who are going to be coming back for Kansas and Carson Brune. You also have Leighton Cure, who came back, who played kind of a limited role, but again, you were really excited and you kind of saw some sparks out of him. You're also bringing in a couple of nice transfers in Jalen Butler, Carter Moses. You're bringing back some other guys who may not have gotten as much play, but could potentially, in Quentin Connolly, Mikey Pauley, and you have some really highly touted freshmen coming in as well. Kevin Sullivan, Jack Oots. I mean, those are two guys that I feel like we're going to be talking about definitely in the future, maybe even potentially this year as some impact guys. Wanted to talk a little bit about the returners first. I wanted to kind of touch on Carson Brune because Carson Brune, really kind of unfortunate what happened with him. He had to deal with injury, but when he was able to get into games, you could see the raw ability of Carson Brune, and I think he did an excellent job in terms of stepping up to the plate, especially after Deshaun Haneke wound up getting hurt, right? You thought last year Deshaun Haneke was going to play a massive, massive part of this Kansas tight end room, and he winds up tearing his ACL. Very unfortunate, and, it was such a cool story from a kid from Topeka, got virtually nothing, goes to Butler, shows out there, goes to Iowa State, and then to Kansas, and just kind of riddled with injury. Really unfortunate, and a really great guy, too. But Carson Brune did an excellent job in terms of stepping up, right? You saw him early. You saw him in the Fresno State game. Had one reception for 3 yards. That was back when Deshaun Haneke was still, on the team available. And you saw the Wagner game. He had one reception there for 13 yards. And then in the Mizzou game, he had one reception for 15 yards. It was actually a massive catch by Carson Brune in that Mizzou game. Kansas wound up losing that game 42-31. And then in the UCF game, that was his best game by far. He wound up with 2 receptions for 24 yards. So in the game log, you have 4 games played, 5 receptions, 55 yards. That doesn't strike you as oh wow, this guy's great if you look at the stats, right? But if you look at what Carson Brune is able to do on the football field, I think that the raw ability is there, right? Especially in the blocking game, because when you play tight end, there's 2 facets of the game, and that's where he got the majority of his snaps, was kind of in the blocking game. And being that blocking tight end, he was really good at fitting guys up, right? You saw him on some bend blocks. You saw him out in the open field, perimeter blocking, right? Perimeter blocking. I used to have an old college football coach tell me that perimeter blocking shows how much you care about your football team, and maybe he was just saying that just to get us to perimeter block better. But Carson Brune, you can see that being a major strength of his game, right? And coupled with the fact that he's able to high point those balls, right? He's like the best version of Jared Casey and very, very tall, right? Jared Casey, you look at him, he was 5'10", played fullback, but transitioned over to tight end. Really good blocking guy, right? That's what Carson Brune is, but Carson Brune's 6'6", 255 pounds. That's a guy who you can find in those seams and high point some balls. And here's the thing is that with tight ends of the past and with offensive coordinators of the past, they weren't utilized the way that you probably wanted them to be, right? Ever since Mason Fairchild left, the tight end room kind of felt a little thin just because we weren't utilizing them as much, right? You look at the Jeff Grimes era, I remember talking about this. I counted once where you saw a tight end seam, a tight end running through the middle with nobody there because Kansas never did it. That's why there was nobody there, and Leighton Cure wound up dropping a ball, right? It's unfortunate. Last year you saw it a little bit more, but it wasn't necessarily implemented. You saw a lot more 5 and outs, boundary stuff with those tight ends where, you saw fade routes, which I actually don't think is a strength of any tight end, let alone the Kansas tight ends, is running those fade routes, running those out routes, right? I like tight ends running seams. I like tight ends through the middle because they're going to be able to take those hits from those linebackers, those safeties who are crashing down on them, and they're able to high point balls as well. I think Carson Brune is going to be a very nice piece for this, and that's the guy who's coming back with really the most amount of playing time that you have. You also have Leighton Cure, who's coming back for Kansas, and Leighton Cure, again, you look at the game log. He played in 3 games last year. He didn't play in 3. He played more than that, but he had 3 games where he actually did something, right? Wagner, he had 1 reception for 10 yards. No touchdowns. Oklahoma State, he had 2 receptions for 32 yards. That was his best game probably. That was a 38-21 win for Kansas. And then in the Utah game, we actually saw him get in the end zone. That was his 1 reception for 21 yards where he wound up finding the back of the the north end zone. I like Leighton Cure a lot. Again, I mean, you look at his brother, Lincoln Cure, really solid tight end for Kansas State. Leighton Cure has all of the abilities that I think are there. He's really good in the blocking game. I mean, that's the kind of guy, and we've heard about Leighton Cure, about his leadership role as well, right? This is a guy who hasn't had much of an impact on the field really at all, right? I mean, you look at the stats from 2024, he only got in a handful of games, didn't have a single catch to his name. He had that big-time drop. It would have been like a 40-yard catch a couple of years ago. Didn't do anything there. His only real meaningful production was last year, and it was 4 receptions for 63 yards and a touchdown. I mean, the stats don't necessarily back that up in terms of being a number one guy. But again, that's the stats talking. When you look at Leighton Cure, when you look at the skill set that he has in the blocking game and in the passing game, I think the route running is there. We can see it in practice. We can see it on the field where he's able to get away from guys. He's able to kind of read those safeties, read those zone defenses, find the soft spots. I think he's really good at that. I just think he wasn't utilized enough. And part of that is because Bodengruen did an excellent job at stepping up to the plate, and Bodengruen really was the number one guy for last year whenever Deshaun Haneke wound up getting hurt, right? Carson Brune also got hurt. You thought it was going to be Carson Brune. He winds up getting hurt and doesn't play virtually the rest of the season, right? You had Leighton Cure in your back pocket. You utilized him a little bit. Every time he caught the ball, it was good, but it was only 4 times. I think this is going to be a big year for Leighton Cure. I think this is going to be the year where he finally gets to kind of show what he's made of and show that he can do it at the next level. Because if you remember, we got him from a Division II. We got him from Fort Hays State. When he was at Hays, he was really damn good. But comes to Kansas, finds himself lower on the depth chart, dealt with a little bit of injury his first year, I think, and, just hasn't been able to produce. And I think this is going to be a massive year for Leighton Cure. And again, you're hearing a lot of things about how good of a leader he is, especially not only in the room, but on the offensive side of the ball too. So Leighton Cure has a very, very high upside that, you love to see. Will we see him be the number one guy? I don't know. But, I don't know. We'll certainly see. I want to talk about 2 of the transfers who come in. I want to talk about Carter Moses and Jalen Butler. I'll talk about Carter Moses first because Carter Moses, he's a very interesting player to me. 6'5", 241, comes over from the University of Albany. Again, they have that connection there because Kansas got Levi Wentz from Albany. I actually remember talking to Carter Moses over this spring about it. He said he actually reached out to Levi Wentz, and that was part of the reason why he decided to come to Kansas, was because Levi Wentz had such a positive experience while he was here at Kansas. By the way, shout out to Levi Wentz for getting signed by the Pittsburgh Steelers, Pittsburgh guy, hometown team, so that's really cool to see. But, Carter Moses spent 3 seasons at Albany. He had 4 receptions, 47 yards his first year. Second year, 16 receptions, 126 yards, and a touchdown. And then I sneezed. Excuse me. My gosh, bless me. In 2025, 26 receptions, 321 yards, 12.3 yards per catch, which is pretty good. He also had 2 touchdowns as well. He has the sizables to be a serviceable tight end, especially at the Power 4 level, right? When you look at what Carter Moses was able to do at Albany, yes, I understand. It's Albany. They're playing in the CAA, right? You're not playing against as good of talent as you are going to be when you're going up against Texas Tech's defense or K-State's defense or anything along those lines, right? I understand that. But here's the thing. He's going to be a plug-in guy right away. I think you're going to see Carter Moses right away. I think that he's potentially could be that number one guy. And then when you look at Jalen Butler and his stats at Old Dominion, he's very interesting. He's 6'4", 245 pounds, and when you look at what he was able to do last year for Old Dominion, he had 9 receptions for 59 yards and a touchdown. But he almost led Old Dominion in snaps played. They didn't utilize him in the sense of a traditional tight end. They utilized him kind of as a secondary offensive lineman, right? And he has the size to be able to do it. But I think that's going to be such a massive thing for Jalen Butler coming over from Old Dominion, where he has the blocking down, he has the snap counts down, he has the stamina of playing entire games. 100% the entire time and kind of sliding into a role over there at Old Dominion. That's probably part of the reason why he also transferred as well, is because they weren't utilizing him as much. But he still played a ton at Old Dominion. They just didn't utilize him in the passing game as well. And I feel like we're beating a dead horse when we talk about this every single time, because we're talking about the offense. We talked about it with the running backs. We talked about it with the wide receivers. But now we're going to talk about the tight ends, which is going to be the biggest place where this is impacted, is that Andy Kotelnicki's back. You saw what he was able to do with Tyler Warren at Penn State, right? You saw it with Mason Fairchild whenever he was here back in 2023. And all the other tight ends that Kansas had, he was able to utilize the tight ends and utilize these weird pre-snap formations, pre-snap motions, all of these different things that Andy Kotelnicki was able to do. You have that back in your back pocket, right? So the reason I'm saying all of these guys have an opportunity to play is because look at the track record that he has. You see a ton of 12, 13, 23, 22 personnel where you have, 2 running backs, 3 tight ends, or 1 running back and 2 tight ends, or whatever it may be, right? You're going to see a lot of tight end usage being utilized here. And I would imagine that's a big part of the reason that Jalen Butler and Carter Moses decided to come to Kansas. And that's a part of a big reason why the tight ends that you have as freshmen came to Kansas as well, with Kevin Sullivan and Jack Oots. Those are going to be 2 guys to look out for in the future, even potentially this year, right? Because you're going to see some weird stuff. If you're a tight end playing in the Andy Kotelnicki style of offense, you need to be the most well-rounded football player on the football field, because he's going to throw you in different things. You're going to be an attached tight end sometimes. You're going to be playing slot receiver sometimes. Hell, you might even be in the backfield sometimes. And I'm going to tell you this right now, you will be. You will be utilized as a fullback, if you will, right? Because of all of these different set formations that Andy Kotelnicki brings to the offense. You've seen it in the past. You've seen it at Penn State. And the tight end room, again, I think is filled with guys who are well-rounded, and you brought in guys who were who have experience in that, right? And Jalen Butler is the prime example of that, where, hey, this is a guy who played hundreds of snaps for Old Dominion last year, got 9 receptions, 59 yards. He got the blocking game down. His perimeter blocking is excellent. His pass protection blocking is excellent, right? What he's able to do in the run game is excellent. And now you add in the wrinkle of he's actually going to be a legitimate threat. I think Jalen Butler is going to be potentially the number 1 guy that you're looking at, just because of the sizability, the overall, depth of what he has, his football knowledge, his role-playing ability. I think Jalen Butler, you're going to see him probably more than maybe some of the other guys. We don't know who the number 1 guy is going to be. I would assume it could be Carson Brune, right? If Carson Brune's able to stay healthy, what we saw last year, even though he had 5 receptions last year and only, those only came in 4 different games, he was injured for a lot of it. Carson Brune is a well-rounded football player who's a very good blocker, who has the ability to impact games, not just by receptions, but by a lot of other things. Wanted to talk about a couple of the other guys, too. You have the tight ends in Jack Oots and Kevin Sullivan. Jack Oots comes over from Platte City, Missouri. He's going to be a really fun player to watch. Again, when you look at Oots and what he's kind of able to do, I don't know if he's going to be a plug-and-play guy kind of right away. He's 6'5", 225 pounds. Really solid player. Again, that's a guy that I'm looking in the future for, and could potentially be kind of a, specific set kind of guy. If you're ever going to be going down the depth chart, right, looking at those 13 personnels when you have 3 tight ends out there, maybe they take Leighton Cure out and put Jack Oots in there. Or you could look at, and there's a couple of bye games on the game on the season as well. You have Middle Tennessee coming into town, right? You have Long Island. You have these games to be able to feel it out and decide whether or not these guys are going to be able to make an impact, either A, right away, or B, you can look at them kind of as an evaluation games and say, okay, this is what you need to work on in game. This is what you need to work on in the pass game, in the blocking game, in the run game, whatever it may be, right? But you're going to see these pre-snap motions, these weird formations where you're going to see multiple tight ends out there. I absolutely love it, and I think that Kansas has the right amount of depth to be able to do it. And it doesn't even matter about the depth. Obviously, you like the depth there where you have a couple of 3-star tight ends coming in as freshmen, right? Again, I don't know how much they're going to be able to play this year just because you have Carson Brune, you have Jalen Butler, you have Carter Moses, you have Leighton Cure. But Andy Kotelnicki did such a good job at squeezing the most amount of talent out of his tight ends as possible. And I'm talking about Andy Kotelnicki. I also should throw out Matt Lubick as well. Matt Lubick, who is the tight ends coach, has done such a tremendous job with developing the tight ends and being able to squeeze all of the potential out of the tight ends as possible, that I think that the tight end room is probably maybe the most overlooked position group on the offense in general, just because of how much they're going to be utilized, right? With Matt Lubick and Andy Kotelnicki putting their heads together, determining how they're going to be able to use these tight ends, because I think a lot of people don't understand that tight ends are the most versatile position on the offense, where you have to not only learn how to high point balls and run different routes and be the guy in motion, but you also have to be able to block for the running backs, do bend blocks, do perimeter blocking. You have to fit up on a fast corner who's going to be faster than you, right? Be able to allow whoever it is on the outside to get around you and fit them up and block them in the open field. I think that Kansas has the guys to be able to do it. So I really like this tight end room a lot. Kevin Sullivan's going to be a nice piece in the future for sure. You also have a fan favorite, Mikey Polley, who transitioned from quarterback to tight end, and we saw him maybe a little bit last year in the blocking game, and made that transition about halfway through. Again, Mikey Polley, I don't know how much he's going to be playing this year. He does have some nice size to him, and he's continued to build upon that. He's 6'5". He's 248. That's what he's listed at right now. Last time I saw Mikey Polley, he was like 6'5", 215, and he's been able to bulk up and kind of get his body ready for that. Same with Quentin Connolly. Quentin Connolly's done a good job in terms of getting some size on him as well. He started off as a wide receiver. He's 6'5", 251. I don't know how much we're going to see of Quentin Connolly this year. I know we saw a little bit of him in spring ball, working with those tight ends. Obviously, all these guys are going to be getting some reps, but you have depth there. You have depth at the tight end room, and I think you're going to see a rotation of different guys. Who's going to be the number one guy? My guess is going to be Jalen Butler or Carter Moses. It could be Carson Brune, just because Carson Brune has, the most experience in a Kansas jersey, right? Could be Leighton Cure. I would imagine we're going to see kind of a revolving door of different tight ends being utilized in this room. So, I don't know. That's just me. Anyway, that is my positional group breakdown of the tight ends for Kansas. Tomorrow, I'm going to be going over the offensive line, go a little bit farther in depth in terms of what I think the offensive line is going to look like, because, you lost some guys, but you're bringing some guys back, and with the offensive line, with the addition of the tight ends, playing attached, it's going to be a little different. Seeing how they utilize it, and with those running backs back behind you, right, you're going to have some different styles of blocking, different play styles, different things like that in terms of the offensive line. So I'll talk about that tomorrow. But that's my KU football positional group breakdown of the tight ends. Hey, after this, it's Case the Mondays, brought to you by Crown Automotive. After this, on Rock Chalk Sports, KansasNation.com, and ESPN Kansas City. Welcome back into Rock Chalk Sports here on KansasNation.com and ESPN Kansas City. Hour 2 here on Rock Chalk Sports. Going to be talking a lot of different things. NBA draft chatter coming up later in the show. Also talking a little College World Series final. That's going to be coming up as well. That's going on tonight. I'm going to be locked into that, as well as some World Cup games too. But got to kick off hour 2, as we always do, with Case of the Mondays, brought to you by Crown Automotive. Crown Automotive here in Lawrence, over in my neck of the woods on South Iowa Street. Be sure to check them out. CrownAutomotive.com or CrownMotorsVW.com. Tiguan's, Tauses, Jettas. They have those really cool Volkswagen electric buses that are just the bee's knees, if you will. That's a phrase that I like to use. Also, Toyotas, Camrys, Corollas, RAV4s, Tacomas, Tundras, you name it, they've got it. And if those aren't your jam, I don't know why they wouldn't be, because there's some of the best cars you can get bang for your buck-wise. They have a whole line of used cars as well from a number of different brands. They're going to get you in the car that fits your lifestyle. So be sure to check out CrownAutomotive.com or CrownMotorsVW.com if you're in the market for a new or used car. Crown Automotive by Miles Schneer, Lawrence Citizen of the Year, Crown Automotive. So You know they're not going to try to sell you on something that you're going to be regretting the next day, right? They're going to try to get you in the car that fits your lifestyle at an affordable price. Friendliest sales staff here in town over at Crown Automotive. Love having Crown Automotive be the founding partner here at Kansas Nation. Hey, it's time for Case of the Mondays. Want to start off here. I got a couple of things about the Knicks. Want to start off with Case of the Mondays for Tyler Kolek. So, in case you're unaware, the New York Knicks, if you've been living under a rock, they won the NBA Finals for the first time since 1973. I have two things on the parade itself, but I want to talk about Tyler Kolek. So Tyler Kolek, if you don't know, really nice player at Marquette back in the day, kind of a bench piece for the New York Knicks, right? Kind of a, your typical like 6'1", like scrawny white guy. Just happy to be a part of the team, right? He's around, bouncing around the New York Knicks parade in downtown New York. He's over there high-fiving everybody. Then the police stop him because they go, "Hey, buddy, this is for team only. You're a fan. Get back on the other side." Tyler Kolek's like, "What the hell? I'm on the team, man." So that's unfortunate for him because the police didn't know who Tyler Kolek was. That does remind me of a story also with the New York Knicks, also with former state of Kansas legend Ron Baker. So Ron Baker, as you know, played for the New York Knicks for a couple of years. And there's a really funny story about how he was coming into a game and he got stopped by security. They're like, hey, buddy, whoa, this is for players only. And Ron Baker's like, "I'm actually on the team, so please let me in." They're like, "Yeah, right. Yeah, they'll let somebody like you on the team." So apparently Knicks, I guess, like New York police have not come a long way in terms of understanding and knowing who's on the roster. That's unfortunate, though. Like, that has to be an immediate, like, ego killer. Like, you're riding on cloud nine. You're, got a few beers in you. You're getting a little, drunk, just, celebrating. You're Tyler Kolek. You're on the team. You won an NBA Finals. You're high-fiving all the fans, and then the security comes up and they're like, "Hey, buddy, you're just a fan. Get on the other side." He's like, "Oh, come on, man. Like that's not fair for Tyler Kolek. You know what? That's not fair." I think, and Tyler Kolek was a nice player. All right, they don't know Big East basketball. Those guys, whoever the NYPD or the security or whoever it was, do your research. You gotta know who Tyler Kolek is. Now, granted, does he look like a regular old Joe like me? Of course he does. He doesn't look like he'd be good at basketball, but he is. It's unfortunate. He didn't play a big part in New York Knicks. I don't even know if he played a minute in those games. But still, let him. You got to know these things, right? You have to. If you're setting up the parade, you have to give them like a list of the guys who are on the parade with like pictures on them as well. Timothée Chalamet was on a parade float, right? One of the cast of The Sopranos was on the parade boat too, right? Tyler Kolek's actually on the team. Let him be. Leave him alone, right? You should know this. You should just know this. Also, Case of Mondays for Knicks bandwagon fans. This is actually just a really cool thing that I saw on Twitter. So this is from Danielle Sepulveras on Twitter. She said, "My coworker just told us that her dad was at the 1976 Knicks parade with his buddy, and they carried a sign. They still have the sign. We have a picture of the sign that I wanted to show you. So this is big banner. It says New York Knicks World Champions 73. They still have the exact same sign from 1973. Yeah, it's a little yellow now, but that's okay. Apparently, they watched the series together, and they recreated their photo of them holding up the sign. There's an original picture from 1973, and then the picture of them now holding up the sign. They had a bunch of people putting out pictures of them holding up the sign at the Knicks parade. That was just a really cool thing, man. I love that because it feels like New York is such a transplant town that you're never really going to run into native New Yorkers. It's kind of like the Hawaii of the continental United States of it's I'm from New York. Where are you originally from? Oh, I'm from Cleveland. Oh, I'm from New York. Where are you originally from? Oh, Wisconsin. New York is full of transplants, which is fine. I mean, that's okay, but that's just what New York is, right? But these guys went and celebrated in 1973. They are the biggest Knicks fans in the world. They had to suffer through 53 years of terrible basketball. They had some good years in between. They went to the finals in 1999, whatever. They went to the finals back in, was that 95, 94? Yeah, it was whenever they lost to the Rockets. So, you know, I feel like you continue to see this. I think New York Knicks fans are the prime example of transplants who come into the city and they just happen to be New York Knicks fans, right? This is a beautiful thing where you're seeing native New Yorkers who are old heads, these old grizzled veterans. They celebrated the first one, and it meant so much to them that they kept the original sign from 1973 and they brought it back to the New York City New York Knicks championship parade. It was a beautiful thing, man. Also, I loved, there was a video of a bunch of people telling an interview about like what they told their bosses why they were off that day. A lot of people were like, "Oh yeah, I'm not feeling good. I'm sick," and they go to the Knicks championship parade, which is fun. I've actually never been to a championship parade before, believe it or not. 2015, excuse me, for the Royals, we had football practice in high school. So I was unable to go to that. We actually had a kid got kicked off the team for skipping practice to go to it. And I never went to any of the Chiefs ones. I had work or class or something along those lines. I just wasn't able to go up to Kansas City to ever make it to one of those. So really unfortunate. Hey, case of the Mondays for NFC East corners. Britton Covey. If you know Britton Covey, really nice wide receiver who came out of Georgia, posted on his social media. He said, "Everyone's posting their one-on-ones this week. I figured I'd add mine, add my undefeated hammy route." So essentially what it is, I don't have a video of this, just I didn't want to get in trouble at all. But Britton Covey posted this. This is what he's doing. He's on the Eagles now. Essentially what he's doing is man up coverage, right? The corner's pressed up against him, runs a route, grabs his hamstring. Oh, I pulled my hamstring. Fake injury. Boom. Fade route. It's so good. It's so good. He posted a couple of different ones that I absolutely love, and he better pull this out. This is one of the best things that I've seen in my life. If he does this in an actual NFL game, that's all anybody's going to be talking about for the next month and a half. Is Britton Covey's hamstring fake pull on a route. It's so good. I want to see this. I want to see more gimmicks. You know me. I'm a fan of pageantry, right? I'm a fan of trickery, right? I like a little sleight of hand every now and then. If you pull off a fake hamstring pull in an actual game and then you beat your guy, because every single time that this happened, the corner stops and just stands there. And Britton Covey sprints, and the corner's like, "Well, hey, what the heck? I thought he..." No. Guess what, buddy? Touchdown. In your face. Okay? I like this. I want more of this to happen, right? I want, like, I got to tie my shoe real fast, and then you go. Like, I want more pageantry. I want more trickery, right? It's fun. That's what makes football fun, right? Statue of Liberty plays, hook and laterals, those kind of things. This is in the same realm. It's fun. It brings me joy. So, shout out to Britton Covey, man. Really nice wide receiver. I think he'll be a fun wide receiver to watch in the NFL for sure. Especially, well, I don't like watching the Eagles, but he'll be fun. Hey, case of the Mondays for Fox Sports because they're going to continue without their, 2 to 6 guy or whatever. Doug Gottlieb, he got extended through 2031. Now, as you know, I have a long-standing beef with Doug Gottlieb, and it's, when I say beef, it's just me. He doesn't know who I am. My main issue with Doug Gottlieb, and a lot of people know this, was the fact that he had the audacity to, A, think that he could get a head coaching job with no prior experience, and B, maintain his 3-hour national sports radio show while head coaching a Division I basketball program. That was my biggest thing about him. He's a nice guy. I've met him once. Green Bay actually played against Kansas this year, and he had nothing but great things to say about Kansas. obviously it goes back a long ways. He also had a weird personal vendetta against Kansas just because of the fact that he played at Oklahoma State, and when he played at Oklahoma State, he came to Allen Fieldhouse and put on his shorts backwards, and he just doesn't like Kansas. So I don't like him. I've never liked him. I thought he was a good villain for sports talk radio. I think he's kind of stupid sometimes. He led Green Bay to a terrible, terrible record his first couple of years, right? He had one really good player in Anthony Roy who actually wound up transferring over to Oklahoma State, so that was good for him to get him an opportunity to play at a higher level, right? But my main thing was the audacity that he had to think that he was good enough to be a head coach without any head coaching prior experience. That guy had never even head coached a high school team, right? To think that he could go and head coach a Division I men's basketball program is asinine to me. And the fact that he thought he could keep his 3-hour radio show while doing it, again, is asinine to me. That is a full-time job. That is more than a full-time job. That takes up your entire life. It should take up your entire life. And guess what? While he had the radio show, that man won 4 games his first year as a head coach of Green Bay. I'm telling you right now, if I went to go be a head coach at a Division I basketball program, I could probably win 4 games myself. Now, Doug Gottlieb, what he did was he decided he did the right move, and I credit him for this. He did the right move. He said, you know what? I'm going to go full in on Green Bay. I'm going to quit my radio show, and I'm going to be the head coach of Green Bay. And that's when I said it. I like the fact that he did that because that means you're fully bought in. You're fully invested. Green Bay should have known that from the jump. If he wanted to keep his 3-hour radio show every single day, there's no way that that man is going to be fully invested in your basketball program. And it showed. He won 4 games that year. But when he eventually quit and when he eventually started, all right, I guess I got to take this head coaching job at a Division I seriously. Hey, guess what? They started winning games. Or at least more than 4, right? They weren't good. But he started winning more than 4 games. So I like this. And they extended him through 2030 to 2031. We'll see if that continues. I don't imagine that it will. He's bringing eyeballs to Green Bay. I agree with that. I think it's a gimmick, right? It's like when Bethune-Cookman tried to hire Ed Reed as their head coach, and he was there for a week, right? Norfolk State did the same thing with Michael Vick. I get it, okay? You are a small-time little place. You want to get some national name to come in and, get more eyeballs on your program. I get that, right? Now Doug Gottlieb doesn't have any show. He's continuing to buy in. I still don't think he's a good head coach. I mean, the proof is in the pudding, right? Again, he won 4 games that first year. Yeah, he had some distractions where he had another full-time job that he had to continue to do alongside being a Division I head coach. He's cocky, he's arrogant, but he did the right thing. He understood it. He reassessed and said, all right, actually, you know what? Maybe this isn't working out. Let me quit the radio show. Let me focus on my team. And they got better. And that's a good thing. Is he going to continue throughout 2030, 2031? I don't think so because to me, Doug Gottlieb is, how do I put this nicely, a narcissist. He likes the attention on himself. That was my biggest thing with him. All he wanted was attention. Is he going to be able to go all the way through 2031 without being on a national radio show every single day? I doubt it because the guy loves attention. And there's a little bit of that in everyone. I like doing this show, right? Everyone has to like a little bit of attention if you want to be in this, right? But Doug Gottlieb, I think he's going to get fired or it's going to be a mutual thing within the next 2 years. And guess what? He's going to go back and try to get some radio job somewhere else. Fox Sports, I'm sure, will bring him back with open arms because they like him over there. And, now he's going to be a former guy with head coaching experience, whatever. But congratulations to Doug Gottlieb for having to live in Green Bay for another 4 years. Case of Mondays for the Bucks. This story is coming out. This is kind of developing as we go along. This is per Shams. Also, Brian Windhorst has been on this. Apparently, Giannis Antetokounmpo is expected to be traded before the start of the NBA draft on Tuesday. So, again, this is going to be happening within the next 24 hours. we're pre-recording the show today, so if anything comes out, I apologize. But as of right now, the front runners for Giannis Antetokounmpo is the Celtics and the Heat. Those are emerging as the finalists to land Giannis Antetokounmpo. The Bucks have been engaged, this is per Shams, in serious trade talks with the Celtics and the Heat. Sources told Sharania. Boston, apparently, they're trying to offer away Jaylen Brown as a proposed swap. So just a straight-up swap of the two, of Giannis and Jaylen Brown. That's kind of crazy to me. Again, you have two former, I guess they're two NBA Finals MVPs, right? And Jaylen Brown and Giannis Antetokounmpo. Jaylen is a little bit younger than Giannis. Giannis, I think, has still a lot of really solid years ahead of him, and I think if you surround him with some teammates who give him more support, I think he's going to be really good and still going to be in contention for NBA Finals every single year, especially if you go to the Boston Celtics, right? Imagine Jason Tatum and Giannis Antetokounmpo on the same team. That, to me, is just unbelievable. That would be a fantastic team, and the Celtics would get back into that realm. The Miami Heat, that's an interesting one, right? Because you do have Wiggins, right? You still have J-Butt. Jaime Jaquez is a nice player. You still have Bam. So that'll be an interesting kind of way to manage that. One of them is going to have to move to the 4, but Giannis is still a really nice player. You can kind of plug and play him really anywhere, at least in the front court. So it'll be interesting to see. But the Bucks have had to deal with this for so long because he's continuing to, string them along, if you will, right? I mean, we saw this all the way back in like August, September of last year, where Giannis is like, "I want to leave," and the Bucks are like, "We don't want you to leave," and he's like, "All right, well, I'm gonna be listening to some offers," and it just continued on and on and on, and then he decided, "Hey, actually, you know what? I'm coming back. Here I am, and I'm going to be playing with the Bucks." And he also partnered with Kalshi, which is weird. I don't know. I don't want to put my tinfoil hat on just yet, but again, it seems as though that he's moving towards potentially either going to the Boston Celtics or the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat, for what it's worth, they're trying to give away the 13 overall pick and try to give away some other players as well. Trying to play it a little bit safer, but still give away more capital, I would say, to the Bucks. But if you're going to go with a Jaylen Brown, Giannis Antetokounmpo trade, that to me is that's a massive blockbuster, just straight up swap of the two, which is what is potentially being brought to the table. Now, do the Bucks need Jaylen Brown? They're going to, right? But they're going to need somebody else in their front court. They don't have a good front court right now. So they're going to have to either draft somebody or, figure something out. So if they're going to do that, if they're going to take the Heat's 13 pick, maybe they look at a front court guy there. So Bucks have something to work on right now. They have a decision to make. It's going to be interesting to see, but that's kind of the breaking news coming out of the NBA right now. Giannis Antetokounmpo potentially going to either the Boston Celtics or the Miami Heat. It'll be weird to see that. I don't know. It sucks because I always looked at Giannis as the prototypical he did it right. Stuck with the team that drafted him. The team that drafted him built around Giannis, and he wound up winning an NBA title, and it was great. It was amazing. He did it in the right way in the era of super teams, where you had the Warriors with Kevin Durant, and you have all these teams building and acquiring all these pieces, whereas Giannis was drafted, developed, they built around him. They didn't need to build a super team, and they still got it done. I always viewed him as that case. But at the same time, Giannis is getting a little bit older, right? He's in his 30s now, I believe. So, he only has a little bit more time left, and if he wants to go and try to win another ring, I don't think his patience was there to do it in Milwaukee. So if you're going to do that, hell, you might as well do it in Boston, where they have a really solid team around you. Yeah, if they lose Jaylen Brown, that's going to suck, but you're also getting Giannis Antetokounmpo. I don't know, in terms of a one-of-one trade, I don't know who's going to win that, really, right? The Celtics have a better team surrounding them, and you bring in Giannis. That to me feels like a short-term answer, whereas Jaylen Brown feels to me like he has more of a future and maybe a longer term in the NBA, to where the Bucks could utilize him for the prolonged future. But again, I don't know. That's just me. Hey, It's a case of the Mondays for the Ames Police. Iowa State. They're now going to be selling alcohol at Jack Trice Stadium. This is fun. So apparently this is a new thing that Iowa State's doing. It's actually surprising to me that Iowa State has never allowed alcohol before, but a lot of colleges do that, right? I mean, that was a new thing for the booth a few years ago. I think that happened maybe like 2021, 2022, around there, where they just started allowing alcohol to be sold inside David Booth Kansas Memorial Stadium. Now you can buy beers at Allen Fieldhouse as well. But this is a per release of Iowa State. So we will begin offering alcohol sales at Jack Trice Stadium this fall, Hilton Coliseum this winter. So also beers at Hilton Coliseum. Guests must be 21 years of age. Obviously, sales will be limited to 2 alcoholic beverages per person per sale. So you can buy 2, go back, slam them, come back, get more beer. Beer, wine, prepackaged, ready-to-drink cocktails will be offered, so no liquor. Alcoholic beverages, north and south gates. I like this a lot, but also Iowa State fans are the worst. You know this. I know this. I've continued to talk about how terrible Iowa State fans are, about how they are the, I don't want to say meanest, because like that's a weird word to use. They're obnoxious. Obnoxious is the right word, right? You go to Hilton Coliseum, they're in your face, yelling and screaming at you the entire time, and now you add alcohol into that mix, it's just going to make them worse, right? Iowa State fans are just awful to deal with. Jack Trice Stadium, I'm sure it's going to be fun. Good for them. Also, the Ames Police is going to have their hands full. That's why it's a case of the Mondays for Ames Police, because everyone in that stadium is going to be drinking now. And it's not like they weren't drinking in the parking lot beforehand and then going into the game, but they gave them some time to sober up, right? That's what the football games are for. I like this. I like the fact that it's moving towards that now all colleges are at least moving towards starting to sell alcohol in their stadiums, in their coliseums, whatever it may be. So I like this for Iowa State. It's good, but again, why do good things happen to bad people? And that's exactly what I think about Iowa State fans. They don't deserve alcohol. They're already the most obnoxious fan base in the world. They're already the loudest and the cockiest and the most annoying fan base. And now you're going to pump them full of alcohol during the games now. So, I don't know, man. It just, whatever. It sucks. I don't like Iowa State fans, but congratulations on getting alcohol now at Hilton Coliseum and Jack Trice Stadium. Hey, that's going to do it for our Case of the Mondays segment here on Rock Chalk Sports. Hey, after this, going to be talking a little NBA draft chatter, as that's going on tomorrow. So be sure to stay tuned for that. Rock Chalk Sports, KansasNation.com, and ESPN Kansas City. Welcome back to Rock Chalk Sports here on KansasNation.com and ESPN Kansas City. Daniel Courtwright here with Elijah Schmidt, Trey Myers, and Tyler Brewer working behind the scenes. Couldn't do this show without them. Hey, I want to tell you about Custom Lawn and Landscape. Spring and summer, they are made for backyard fun. If you're like me, you got dogs running through the backyard, chasing tennis balls, you got family cookouts lasting past sunset. Nothing ruins time outside faster than fleas, ticks, and chiggers. That's why families trust Custom Lawn and Landscape to help their lawns be beautiful and protected all season long. Their home insect control helps defend your yard from those pesky bugs so your pets and loved ones can enjoy the outdoors more comfortably and safely. And right now, when you sign up for the season, your first application is 100% free. What? Did you say free? Yes, that's right. I said free. Your first application is 100% free when you sign up for the season. It's a simple way to date back your backyard this spring and summer. Visit CustomLawn.com to schedule your free first application with a seasonal insect control program. Custom Lawn and Landscape, helping you love your lawn without the bugs. Hey, a little NBA draft chatter here as we're getting ready to get things going tomorrow. First round of the NBA draft kicking off. Now we will see all of these guys that we know and love, that we saw in the college basketball world, find their landing spot. I wanted to start here because I want to start off with a mock draft. So this is from Jeremy Woo, Joseph Zucker as well. Bleacher Report, they have their top. This is Jeremy Woo's top 10 NBA mock draft as of right now. So as of right now, he has the Washington Wizards going number 1 with A.J. Debonsa from BYU. That's what a lot of people have right now. I know the odds on it are like over minus 400 for A.J. Debonsa to be the number 1 overall draft pick. Darren Peterson seems to think otherwise, right? As we know, Darren Peterson has gone through the entire NBA draft process, only meeting with the Washington Wizards, who have the number 1 overall pick. Apparently, the Washington Wizards meeting went very well for Darren, but he didn't meet with the Jazz or the Grizzlies or the Bulls or the Clippers or anybody else. He only met with the Washington Wizards. Now, there's a couple ways to look at it. Again, we talked about this. Number one, you could look at it in a fun sense of like, oh, it's cool. He's calling his shot. That's like Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan. Like that's like what those stone cold killers do. They're like, I'm the number 1 guy. I'm going to call my shot. I'm going to go number 1. Or you can look at it in the second way of, I'm going to go ahead and say it. I don't care. I think his agency, his camp, his management, his father, everyone else are playing too much of a role in kind of playing God, if you will, in the Darren Peterson saga. I don't like it. I think Darren Peterson, we know this. I've continued to say this. I've continued to go to bat for this kid. He's a very good person. He's not a diva whatsoever. All he wants to do is play basketball. But whenever that happens, essentially what happens is Darren Peterson doesn't want to make any of the decisions on his own. He wants to leave that to his management, leave that to his camp, leave that to everybody else. And I think that they're kind of leading him astray a little bit, right? It's unfortunate that they're doing this. And I think that they've tried to kind of save face a little bit. But again, when you're bringing this out, the same exact thing happened with the Jazz last year where Ace Bailey did not want to meet with the Jazz, and the Jazz still picked him anyway at 5. And Ace Bailey had a fine year. I think he averaged about 13 points a game. It was okay, right? But do the Jazz want to go through that again? That's the big question. Now, if you talk about fit and where these guys would fit better, I actually think that Darren Peterson would be a better player on the Jazz than he would with the Washington Wizards. The Wizards have Trae Young. They have really good guard play over there in Washington. Good guard play is I say really good guard play. They have more guards who are impact guys than they do front court guys. At least in terms of what they need an A.J. Debonsa. They don't necessarily need a Darren Peterson. Darren Peterson is a kind of an outlier, though, because any team that you put him on, he's going to make an impact right away and win you more games. But in terms of position-wise, the Washington Wizards would benefit better from a 6'9" wing than they would a 6'4" point guard, if you will, right? Because they have Trae Young, right? I think Darren Peterson's more natural position is point guard. What do the Jazz not have right now? A serviceable point guard. They have some nice forwards. They have Lauri Markkanen, who's been pretty good. They have Keontae George, who's been all right. They did just trade for Jaren Jackson Jr., so that's going to be a nice addition as well. Darren's going to be running the show more in Utah than he would with the Washington Wizards. So I think in terms of fit, I like that more. But Darren and his apparently, I'm going to say Darren's camp apparently don't want him to go to the Utah Jazz. You can look at it like that, or you can look at it as they're calling their shot, trying to go number 1 overall. I don't think that's what's going to happen. So I'll go through the top 10 right now. So you have A.J. Debonsa, like I said, going to the Wizards. Number 2, they have Darren Peterson going to the Utah Jazz, which he has not met with. Number 3, they have Cameron Boozer going to the Grizzlies, which makes sense. They just lost Jaren Jackson, and he's a really solid player. Caleb Wilson going to the Bulls. Kind of love that. And then here's where it gets kind of interesting. So at number 5, Jeremy Woo actually has Keaton Wagler going 5 to the Clippers, which is interesting that he jumps Michael Brown and Darius Acuff Jr. I think both of those guys are better than Keaton Wagler. I'm rooting for Keaton Wagler. He's a local kid from Kansas City, overlooked by everybody, came out and was an absolute star for Illinois. Is he better than Michael Brown? Is he better than Darius Acuff in terms of talent? We'll see. Right? I think he's a good role player. I think he's a really nice shooter. I think he'll be fun to watch. And if he goes to the Clippers, it'll be great. He'll have a couple of high caliber stars to play alongside with the Clippers as well. So we'll see. So they have Keaton Wagler from Illinois going to the Clippers. They actually have at number 6 Michael Brown going to the Brooklyn Nets, which that makes also a little bit of sense. They need guards out there. At number 7, the Kings. They have Darius Acuff from Arkansas going to the Kings. I think that would be a nice fit over there as well. At number 8, the Atlanta Hawks. They have them taking Kingston Flemings. I mean, that kid's going to be a star, right? I think Kingston Flemings is one of the best young, talented guards we've seen in the Big 12 in a long time, and he would certainly do well over there with the Hawks. The Hawks made the playoffs this year. They have the number 8 pick, so I love that. They have number 9, the Mavericks, taking Nate Ament from Tennessee. We'll see what Dusty May thinks. By the way, how hilarious would that be if he just took Yaxel Lindeberg? I just thought about that right now. That would be very funny if they took Yaxel Lindeberg. Like, they bring in Dusty May, they take Yaxel at number 9. And not to say, like, Yaxel he's NBA ready, right? That's not out of the realm of possibility to say. And he's, a much more mature might not be the right word, experienced basketball player too. So I think he'll be a plug and play guy. He'll have a long career in the NBA. So we'll see, right? I mean, they have the number 9 pick. Who knows? And then at number 10, this is the interesting one where I think that this could potentially change if you're the Bucks. The Bucks have the number 10 pick right now. It has them taking Braden Burries. Whereas there are still some other guys, right? Like if Yaxel's available, I think you might look at Yaxel to potentially be one of those front court guys at number 10. Braden Burries has such a high upside, and I thought should have been Big 12 Player of the Year. And to me, that he's a for sure solidified top 10 guy. If Braden Burries falls to the Bucks at 10, that's a win for the Bucks. But here's the thing. If they trade Giannis away and they get Jaylen Brown, you have guard play there. You're going to need somebody in the front court. So, again, all of this could change if Giannis gets traded. And, again, we're recording this early, so we don't know if Giannis has been traded yet or not. We're recording this right now. It's 12:51 p.m. By the time you're listening to this, it's probably 5, maybe 6 p.m. or whatever it may be. If you're listening to the podcast, if you're listening to it on Tuesday, then a lot of things can change, right? Those kind of things happen. But as of right now, Jeremy Woo has Braden Burries at number 10. I wanted to go over this article because Jay Billis put in his 2026 NBA draft superlatives. So he has most talented player, most built for the NBA, best pure basketball player, most dynamic athlete, best guard besides Peterson, which is a very funny thing to put, best passer, rebounder, defensive player. I wanted to talk about these, and I'll kind of break them down and tell you if I agree with them or not. It is an interesting article on ESPN.com. So as of right now, he has the most talented player in the NBA draft as our king, Darren Peterson. He says, we did not see the best Darren Peterson during his freshman year in Lawrence due to the cramping and other issues, but we can see his skill, his flashes. But based on those, it's tough to suggest anyone else for the category of most talented. I 100% agree. I've said this before, and I am not being hyperbolic when I say this. Darren Peterson is the best basketball player that I've ever seen in person. And I watched Andrew Wiggins in person. I watched Joel Embiid in person, right? I watched Buddy Hield in person. I've seen a number of different NBA players at the college level, at least, right? I've never been to an NBA game, so I've never seen LeBron James play, right? I've never seen, Jalen Brunson play in person. In person, Darren Peterson is the single best basketball player I have ever seen in my life. His ability to score, his ability to blow past guys, his ability to create shots, make shots, create on offense, not just by scoring, but with his passing ability, with his rebounding ability, with his effortless ability that he has, he makes it look easy, and it's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, right? There are sometimes when he goes out there and he does something, he makes it look so easy, it doesn't look spectacular. And then you go back and you watch the replay, you go, how is that humanly possible that Darren Peterson was able to do that? That's why I still think there's a case for him going number 1 overall, right? Now, in terms of the NBA draft superlatives, Jay Billis has A.J. Debonsa as the, quote, most built for the NBA, which makes sense because he's a 6'9", 6'10" wing. That's what NBA players should be, right? He's really tall, really athletic, can hit shots on the outside. He's a pure scorer. Duh. It makes sense, right? Darren is smaller. He's a point guard. In terms of built for the NBA, if you're 6'9" and are a pure wing, you're going to be a multi-year, double-digit year NBA player regardless of how good you are. Just because of that's what prototypical NBA players should be, a 6'9" wing. So that obviously makes sense. He's a good shot blocker. He's a good rebounder. He's a good scorer. Yeah, I get it. It makes sense for A.J. DeMont to be the most built for the NBA. But in terms of most talented, I have to agree with that. Darren is a more talented basketball player than A.J. DeMont. But A.J. DeMont is ready for the NBA right now. Now, here's where I don't agree, because it doesn't make a lot of sense in terms of superlatives. The best pure basketball player he has as Cameron Boozer. Maybe that's because of the fact that he already gave Darren Peterson the most talented player. And he didn't want to give Darren Peterson two superlatives. But to me, those are the same. Those are mutually exclusive. The best pure basketball player and the most talented basketball player are the same thing to me. I don't know what his case is. Now, he said this category is meant to underscore that Boozer has a distinctive skill set alongside an advanced understanding of the game, team dynamics, and processing game situations in real time. Not to say that the others in this draft are lacking in those areas, but Boozer stands out in this talented crowd. A couple of things on that. Darren Peterson has a more distinctive skill set. Darren Peterson has a better understanding of the game of basketball. Darren Peterson has a better understanding of team dynamics and processing in-game situations in real time. We've seen it. He's better than that in Cam Boozer. Now, Jay Billis is the one who comprised this list. So, as you know, he had to throw a Duke guy on there somewhere. I think that's the case. That's where I'm putting my tinfoil hat on. I don't think Cam Boozer is the best pure basketball player in this draft class. I think we've seen holes in his game where Darren Peterson does not. Again, it's hard. It's apples and oranges because Cam Boozer it plays in the front court. Darren Peterson plays in back court. Hard to compare the two. But in terms of pure basketball players, Darren Peterson is the best. Most dynamic athlete, I agree with him on this one. He has Caleb Wilson. Caleb Wilson, I mean, you talk about just a pure athlete, a 40-inch vertical. The kid's 6'9", 6'10". He has a 7-foot wingspan. He can do things that we haven't seen. I don't even know who to compare him to other than like a more athletic but less pure scoring A.J. DeBonsa, really, is what I can kind of view Caleb Wilson as. I don't know what a good comp would be for an NBA player for Caleb Wilson, but he is one of the best athletes, pure athletes that I've seen in a long time in Caleb Wilson. So I agree with him on there. Now, this is funny because he has a best guard category besides Darren Peterson, is Darius Acuff, which I don't necessarily know if I agree with just because I'm so high on Braden Burries. I'm so high on Braden Burries that I think that he is a much better guard than Darius Acuff. Darius Acuff, I mean, yeah, he averaged 20 points, 5 assists, shot 40% on 3. I get that, right? But there are some holes in Darius Acuff's game. He's nice. He's good at getting to the basket, right? He's really good at ball handling. But Braden Burries, I think, to me, is the best guard in this draft class, aside from Darren Peterson. So, again, maybe that's just me. I don't know. Whatever. I will. You can yell at me, scream at me, do whatever. I think that Braden Burries is a better basketball player than Darius Acuff. I think he has a higher future. Now, I think Braden Burries needs a little bit of growing up to do. But I think you saw it. Like, you don't see guys that are that mature that young in Braden Burries. And he was kind of a surprise to everybody. I think not a lot of people caught on to how good of a player Braden Burries is. They're starting to. And for him to drop to 10, and according to Jeremy Woo in his NBA mock draft, I think it's crazy. And I think the Bucks, if they were able to get him at 10, would be an absolute steal. If the Bucks go with front court and he falls to whoever has 11, then good for them. Whoever got 11, they got a top 5 player in the world. I think Braden Burries, at least in the NBA draft class, I think Braden Burries should be top 5. Best passer, they have Braden Smith. Can't argue there. I mean, all-time assist leader, 1,103. I get it. There is not a single. Okay, actually, let me take this back. I'm going to reel this in. Because there is one single thing why I think Braden Burries can play in the NBA, and that's his passing ability. Everything else around Braden Smith, that's not an NBA player. I'm sorry to say this. I get it. He's a very good college basketball player. He's a very high IQ basketball player. And he's going to make a hell of a head coach one day. But that man is not going to play in the NBA. I'm sorry. He will play 2 years. 3 years, maybe. Maybe he'll go overseas, play in a Lithuanian league or something along those lines, be a nice little player over there. But I'll tell you what, that man's going to make a hell of a head coach one day. That's all I have to say about that. I don't like Braden Smith. I think he's not a great basketball player. Aside from his high IQ, nothing about him screams NBA to me. Best rebounder, he has Haynes Steinbach from Washington, which you can't really necessarily disagree with that. I mean, he led the nation in rebounding, 11.8 rebounds per game. Really nice rebounder. Again, you look at Washington, you look at what he was able to do in the Big Ten. Yeah, I like that, but again, I just don't know if he's NBA ready, right? If he's going to be able to be like one of those Dennis Rodman type where he just doesn't score and rebounds, sure, that's fine. I can see that. He's a big guy, really nice at offensive rebounding. I think if you look at like Toby Awaka, I think he might be a little bit better of a rebounder than him, but I don't know. You can't argue with the stats here, right? This is where I think Jay Billis is doing recreational, not great stuff. Best defensive player, Jaden Quaintance. That's right. Oh, didn't he play at Arizona State? Yeah, he did. He also played at Kentucky. You probably don't know that because he only scored 20 points on the season. He spent the entire rest of the season injured, banged up. That man stole $2 million from the University of Kentucky, and I don't even think he's that good of a defender. I think when you look at Cam Boozer, I think Cam Boozer is a better defender than him. I think, granted, Jaden Quaintance plays a different position, but I still think that, like, man, I don't know. Like, when you look at Nate Ament, he's a good defender as well. Caleb Wilson, again, another nice defender for me. I think having Jaden Quaintance getting any kind of superlative, the superlative that Jaden Quaintance should win is most likely to not win a superlative. That's the kind of player Jaden Quaintance is. I think it's shocking to me that anybody's still looking at him to be in the NBA. Favorite prospects outside of the top 10, Morez Johnson Jr. and LeBaron Philon Jr. I think LeBaron Philon should be a top 10 guy. I love LeBaron Philon, even though everything about me should hate him because he originally committed to Kansas, got out of it, and then winds up going to Arkansas, and then just absolutely balls out. He's amazing. Morez Johnson Jr., by the way, also a really nice player. And then as his top sleeper, this ends it, he's Bennett Sturts. Love it. To me, Bennett Sturts is a classic, like, eighth man for some really solid team who's going to be a spark plug off the bench and give you, he'll play 15 minutes in an NBA game. He'll put up 8 threes, make 5 of them. That's exactly what Bennett Sturts is to me, and I absolutely love that. So he'll be a sleeper. I think he'll probably get picked up maybe in the second round. I don't see him going in the first round. I can see him drop into the second. But he's a really solid player. Shout out to the MIAA, man. Shout out to Ben McCollum and the MIAA for producing that kind of talent. So that's some NBA draft chatter as of right now. We'll follow up on it tomorrow. I'll probably open up the show talking a little bit more NBA draft. But that's it as of right now, where Darren Peterson projected to go number 2. KU's very own Darren Peterson. Hey, after this, going to be talking a little College World Series. North Carolina taking on Oklahoma tonight in a winner-take-all game up in Omaha at Charles Schwab Field. That's coming up after this. Rock Chalk Sports, ESPN Kansas City, and KansasNation.com. Welcome back into Rock Chalk Sports here on KansasNation.com and ESPN Kansas City. I wasn't looking at the camera, but hey, going to talk a little College World Series final. That's going on tonight. You got OU taking on North Carolina. Winner take all for the College World Series Championship, the national championship, if you will. First, got to tell you about Jocelyn's Jewelry, locally owned for over 40 years. Gary Jocelyn and the entire Jocelyn family is proud to have earned the trust of 3 generations of customers. They believe Jocelyn's customers come back again and again and refer their family and friends because we treat each customer with the respect and integrity that they deserve while offering the best in fine jewelry at a fair price. They have been the jeweler that you'll recommend to your friends and family. That is their reputation. They're the jewelry store that you want to go to because they're going to be honest and treat you fair. You would not believe how many customers come in and say they were quoted $400 to fix a ring, and it's under $200 at Jocelyn's to fix the same ring. You need a chain or other items fixed. They often can do it while you wait. All you got to do is show up, say, hey, I need my chain to be fixed. Guess what? They'll do it in a jiffy. It's incredible stuff. That's what Jocelyn's is all about. You need something timely, done right, in a business that you can trust. Well, Jocelyn's Jewelry at 95th and Antioch. It's right in front of the big grocery store. You cannot miss them. Jocelyn's Jewelry, the jeweler that you'll recommend to your friends and family because you can trust Jocelyn's. Like I said, 95th and Antioch, right in front of the big grocery store. Jewelry is a tough word to say. Sean has brought that up. Jewelry, I struggle with jewelry. I struggle with community. That's a tough one too. But yeah, be sure to check out Jocelyn's Jewelry, the best for the best that's yet to come. That's their motto. For the best that's yet to come. Love Jocelyn's Jewelry over there. Hey, I want to talk a little College World Series with you as there is a winner-take-all game going on tonight. That's going to be at 6 p.m. Central Time. It's a two-horse race right now, man. You got OU, you got North Carolina. North Carolina, they lost the first game 9-3 against OU. You just thought OU was just on an absolute, I don't know, man, like death ray. Just they have been unbelievable throughout this entire thing, right? They beat North Carolina, like I said, 9-3. They had 2 runs in the first inning, 4 runs in the fourth inning, 14 hits in that game. North Carolina did have an error, but you look at LaChance for OU. He had 2 home runs in that first game, the only 2 home runs of the game. But then he also had 3 RBIs in that one. Walk, he had 2 RBIs in that one. He went 2 for 5 in this game. OU was just on an unbelievable tear. And then North Carolina, they come back in game 2. You thought all hope was lost for them. And then OU, they go up 2-0 early in the first inning. UNC, they have a 3-run third inning, then a 1-run fifth, 2-run seventh. They go ahead and beat OU in game 2, 6-2. They had 8 hits in that one as well. Hull had a home run. Nicholson had a home run in that one. So North Carolina, a really fun team that has been really solid all kind of throughout. And North Carolina, they've been very, very consistent throughout this entirety of the College World Series and the entirety of the season, right? I mean, you look at OU. OU was nothing special. They're 42-23 right now. They lost, 22 games, I think, or whatever it was kind of in the beginning, and they've just been on a tear in this offseason. So it's been a lot of fun to watch. Deaton LaChance, like I said, has just been incredible. He's batting .333 right now, 18 homers on the year, 68 RBIs. You talk about he also leads them in RBIs as well. Owen Hull has been really solid for North Carolina. You talk about the betting odds right now. So UNC is actually the favorite in this game. -154 on DraftKings. OU is -120 or +120 on the money line. Over/under is 10 runs, which is a lot. Spread is 1.5. UNC is on the -1.5. So it should be a lot of fun. Again, North Carolina, a really solid team, really nice pitching as well. Been the most consistent, but OU just hanging in there, man. Again, I talked about this in the open. I want OU to win because it makes Kansas look a lot better. If Kansas winds up losing to the eventual national champion, then you have that to kind of hang your hat on. It makes you feel a little better, right? I understand Sean is all like, oh, well, hey, I want North Carolina to win because I hate OU. OU beat us in 2 games. They killed us. I want OU to feel pain and suffering like we did whenever they beat us. It's like, no. I'm all about pushing agendas and propaganda for me. Pro-Kansas propaganda. This is the best way to do it. I hate OU, okay? Everything in my nature tells me to root against them because they left the Big 12. They think they're hot stuff because they're in the SEC now, and they came into our house and whooped up on us in our super regional, and now they think we can just go in and win the national championship. But I want them to win because it's better for Kansas. And also, I think that Kansas can use that to kind of build upon it of like, hey, we made it to the super regional, but we lost to the eventual national champion, right? That's going to look better for recruits too, right? Instead of being like, we lost to the runner-up. No, we lost to the national champion, right? They were a really good OU team. They got hot at the right moment, right? I mean, they beat probably the best team in the nation. I would say Georgia Tech was probably the best team in the nation. I know UCLA was there too, but UCLA lost before that. And they beat Georgia Tech in incredible fashion. They beat them in 2 games. I thought Georgia Tech left Mason Patel in a little bit too long, and that's kind of why OU was able to get back into the game. And they just went on an absolute tear, right? That allowed Kansas to host their first ever Super Regional, and that's going to work for recruits, right? Recruits are going to like the fact that, Kansas lost in the Super Regional, but they lost to the eventual national champion, right? So that's going to look a lot better. And Kansas is continuing. I mean, there's a number of different players for KU that have already committed to Kansas. There have been some guys who have wound up leaving, right? But you're still going to have a good, solid group of guys who are going to be coming in for this Kansas baseball squad. So you love to see that, and it's going to continue to build, right? For me, I think that it's here to stay. The backyard decks, all of these different things, right? Renovations still need to be done. The indoor facility still needs to be put up. Again, I don't know where they're going to put it. If the renderings that I saw were accurate, that's going to take away so much parking, which is just going to be a nightmare for guys like me. But again, that's just kind of those first world problems. It's going to be massive if they do wind up getting an indoor facility. But, that's the thing. So anyway, OU takes on North Carolina tonight. I'm going to be rooting for OU because I want Kansas, I want their last one to be, last loss to be against the eventual national championship. Hey, that is going to do it here for today on Rock Chalk Sports. Be sure to stay tuned tomorrow. I'll be back talking all things NBA draft. Darren Peterson's going to get drafted. You certainly hope so. If not, something horribly, terribly has gone wrong. So be sure to be on the lookout for that. For Elijah Schmidt, Tyler Brewer, and Trey Myers running the cameras behind the scenes, I've been Daniel Courtwright. Thanks so much for watching. KansasNation.com and ESPN Kansas City.